Morning guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Just a couple of days after the World Championship Grand Final, already Rostermania is a major discussion point. We're expecting the top teams to likely stay together going into the Esports World Cup, although there will be some changes, it seems, up and down the field, as we'll get into over the coming minutes. But after the World Cup tournament, that is when the key questions are raised, especially for a team like Atlanta FaZe. Last year, they were 6th at champs. They won EWC. They stuck it out together. This year, 6th at champs again. Surely that means they will at least be having a conversation about what the future might be over there. And some rumours today as to what that might look like, especially with Falcons potentially having a serious checkbook to get out. Very much intro to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We're going to begin here real quick with Black Ops 7, Black Ops 6 and the current state of the game, because if you guys noticed on the weekends, they unveiled Fringe, right? So Fringe is back in the game. We've heard this now for some time, and well, it's pretty fascinating that they did this. So Fringe, Hardpoint and Search are going to be added very shortly. This is one of my favourite maps ever. Of course, it's a Black Ops 3 map, and they confirmed what it's going to look like, some of the remastered elements. There's a ladder that they showed up to the side of Top Barn, so you can still get up that way, and there's a couple of options here to make it work for boots on the ground. Looks spectacular, what a great map, but why was it not here already? And I think this is the frustrating thing for us as a competitive COD community, is that apparently, according to Ghost of Hope, this map has been ready for like 2 years. They apparently made this remake in 2023 and had it ready to go all year. Like, I mean, we're talking 2 years ago, but like even for this season, right? Like presumably they made Fringe during their development process for Black Ops 6. It's been ready to go for not even months, but years. They could have added it at any point this season alongside something like Hacienda, and they decided not to. And that's the funny thing, right? They turn up to champs and they're like, oh, look at, Fringe, isn't it great? And the new game, Black Ops 7. It just feels frustratingly a little bit out of touch when they don't realise that that's frustrating to us. It's like, okay, great, you added a good map in, but champs is done now, who cares? Like, you could have added this, and look, maybe it wouldn't play as well for competitive boots on the ground, like jetpacks, whatever, but like, surely this would have been better than some of the stuff that I've been watching this season. Black Ops 6 was a solid game, apart from the maps were terrible, and you're telling me they had one of the best ever maps sitting behind the scenes doing nothing until champs is over? Like, you can't pretend that's not going to annoy us as a COD scene. So maybe they don't understand. I don't really get it, to be honest. So Fringe is going to be in the game. They're keeping the hills the same as well. So what I'm hoping is they at least add it for the World Cup. Like, if they're going to bring it in now, okay, whatever. Hopefully they learn their lesson, but maybe it could arrive for the Esports World Cup in a few weeks' time. I'd certainly like to see it. I imagine the pros would be on board with that idea as well. I would certainly hope so. We'll see. I don't know how Hill 4, which is the track cell, is going to work when it comes to no jetpacks, no wall running, because that was a key feature of the way that Hill played before, getting up into Grandma's house as well. So the map's going to play different for sure, but it's still Fringe at the end of the day. So we'll see if that comes in and does any damage. I thought this is pretty cool, of course, looking back at OpTic's win. Dan Ghosty, this is back in October when Shorstin was saying, look, which player should I look for on the challenger side? Encourage, Derek the GOAT, they've been doing their thing. Ghosty said at the time, Merc, trust, that kid's going to be serious. And, well, as he says, Bull Noah. But as Ghosty says, I was anti him this weekend. I'll be back, though. So we'll talk about the Thieves in due course, where exactly they go from here. But, of course, OpTic win the championship. Not exactly at a canter. The Grand Finals was very competitive, but from where they were a few months ago to where they were this weekend is a monstrous turnaround, and of course raises questions as to what's next for some of the opposition, because the most exciting thing about this for me, from like a Rostermania perspective to some extent, is because of this man Mercules, because he came in from Challengers a few months ago, and now he's Champs winner MVP. It doesn't get a crazier story than that. And it's not something that you're expecting to happen often or again in COD history. There's a reason why this is one of the rarest stories you're ever going to see in esports, let alone in Call of Duty. But if I'm another franchise out there, I'm thinking, damn, well, if I can find a Mercules, I can turn my season from literally world's worst to world's best. Now, of course, you need an unbelievable supporting cast. And the reason why I had OpTic pretty highly rated before this tournament was just because, look, they've got Shotzzy, they've got Dashy, they've got Huke. Like, those are amazing players. It's not like teams, let's say, such as, I don't know, the Ravens or something, can go and pick up a Mercules and all of a sudden become world beaters. It's probably just not going to happen, right? Because they've not got the supporting cast. But still, there is a genuine feeling, I think, for many of the teams too, that if they could find a player with that type of impact, they could make some serious moves. And I'm hoping, therefore, that teams recognise that finding a player like Mercules from Challenges or even elsewhere, who knows, is actually a key factor now. Like, the teams really need to try and do something like this, because that's actually going to give them the opportunity. So hopefully that means a lot in terms of Rostermania, where teams are not going to be eager to, let's say, lay down without a fight. Now, of course, a team like Boston, they did very well, given the fact that they stuck it out all year. They, their teamwork, the team was greater than the sum of its parts. Whatever you want to say, Boston at the end of the year were very successful. But, still, could you imagine a world where Mercules comes in for Awakening or something? You could imagine that team could have been even better, right? So I think the theory of, well, they didn't make changes, that was good, is true to some extent, but I still feel like that Boston team could have made an upgrade and maybe now should definitely consider it. But Boston, for now, will stick it out, as will pretty much all the other teams that were there at the World Championship, to our understanding. There will, however, be some changes, we think, possibly going into the Esports World Cup. Now, my understanding is that as of me recording this video right now on the 1st of July, that is the ends of the Rostermania period for the World Cup. We believe that the World Cup itself, which starts literally very shortly indeed, but the COD stuff is a few weeks away, but the actual Esports World Cup for some of the other esports begins imminently. Those deadlines for that was quite a while ago, right? Way before the World Cup, the teams had to say, okay, this is going to be our entry team. But there was, after Champs, a 24, 48-hour window where the teams could make, if they wanted to, a one-man change. Now, that's a lot to do in a short time horizon. For the top teams, it's not something that's going to happen because, top teams are going to want to get some other top player. It's not something that can be turned around that quickly. Some of the other teams, though, can do it. And as of yesterday, there was big talk about Rostermania back on the agenda, what's happening behind the scenes. And of course, as always, I'll keep you guys updated in what is likely to be a rather hectic period. There is a reason why aBeZy and Sib are on the thumbnails. We'll get to that in a second, because that's a more long-term view of this Rostermania period. But for now, the chief discussion is around the Ravens and what they're going to do. Dylan Rex came into the team. I think he's a better player than he showed, but he joined a broken outfit. It's the Vivid curse. You guys know how it is. TJ and Slasher fell off at the end of the season, started the year very well. TJ was pretty good all year. Slasher started really well and then kind of dramatically fell off at the end of the season. I still think there's a place for those guys in the league in the right outfit, but I guess time will tell. Gwyn was still good this year, but not the player that we have maybe seen him be the previous year. And then Dylan Rex joins. I just think culturally didn't really seem to fit with that team either. And it was just a bit of a disaster. So they're looking, Ravens, to get rid of Dylan Rex and bring in Cobra. So it's like, if they do this, good luck, I guess, getting any better. I don't really think it changes much, but I'm sure they feel like they've got to do something because their team is in such a shambles right now. Cobra, French player, talented flex as he was. I think he's mainly been on an SMG this season, so that's going to be pretty interesting to see what that looks like for him. Where he slots into the team, who takes up the flex role, this type of stuff. They did try a bit of a role change at one point with Vivid and Gwyn, I think, didn't they? And that didn't go to plan, so they ran it back and then they dropped him, and obviously the rest is history over the last couple of months there. So that's the big rumour, potentially Cobra to Ravens as the deal getting done. Is it going to massively move the needle for the World Cup? Probably not, but at least it's a player that we've not seen in the league before getting an opportunity here. We did play at the World Cup last year, I think on the Gentlemates team, but this season we were maybe thinking Cobra could get an opportunity. That did not happen. Maybe if he shows up at the World Cup, that could be a different story. The other rumour that was briefly going around last night, Vinny Gage did a couple of tweets, and then they got deleted, obviously, but he talked about Rocker looking at a player like Mamba. So Mamba is on the Vivid, Mack, Craze and Mamba Omit team that just won DreamHack Dallas's Challengers event and Challengers Champs just a couple of days ago. Mamba's a player used to be known as Big Head. He's kind of not come out of nowhere, but he's kind of swiftly risen up to the top of Challengers. And rumour had it that Rocker were at least looking at him. Now, he's an AR. He would replace Geo in this hypothetical scenario. And that would be very interesting because I think many people rate Geo very highly, but we talked about it on the Dope Check show yesterday that I think maybe Attach said it or Don, I don't know, that Geo and Nero are very similar players in, effectively, Geo is like the AR version of Nero. So, and maybe the point is you can't have both if they're going to play the game in that way. I don't know what Kenny thinks about it. That's a rumour, nowhere near confirmed or anything to that effect. The big stuff that I wanted to get into, though, of course, is what might happen with the top teams. Because At the end of the World Championship, Thieves, the pre-tournament favourites, have bombed out top 8, last place. FaZe have bombed out top 6, only beating Ravens and not winning a map in the other 2 series that they played. Totally unacceptable. Drazah tweeted about it. Simp tweeted about it. Cellium tweeted about it. The one man that didn't actually tweet about it was aBeZy. aBeZy said nothing yet, his replies or whatever, like he's not tweeted about the World Championship concluding yet. I don't know if you think that says anything because the other guys have done, but, you know, we'll see. The Thieves team is all fully under contract, right? They're locked down for next season. I think whether Thieves make a change depends quite a bit on the World Cup. I could see them sticking it out. I think it depends what happens, though, to some degree with FaZe and what players might be available there, because I would be surprised at this point if FaZe stick. They're going to be the same for the World Cup, as I say, with the roster deadlines and stuff. It's almost certain they will run it back with the same team there. They may even win it, but if they do win it, it's like, well, we did the same thing last year and still when it really mattered at Champs, we failed to deliver. So it's difficult to imagine that FaZe can stay the same after the season that they have had. And Don says that, like, he thinks the mental is cooked. He sees both of those teams making changes. And if they do, where do we go from here? So shout out Zanchito for pointing this out to me yesterday in the replies to this tweet that I did back in March when OpTic were terrible and it was so confusing. And he pointed out who the Vegas Falcons are following on Instagram. Now, I don't use Instagram for that much COD stuff, so I don't follow everyone here. But the point is, if we look through the Vegas Falcons, you guys can see at the top here, following page, you will find that they follow these teams. They follow Call of Duty, Team Falcons, Falcons, another one, Breaking Point, shout out the boys, Toronto, OpTic, COD League, Miami, COD Esports, Clayster, FaZe, Cloud9, COD, a couple of their own like guys, content creators, to whom, for example, ignore the elephant in the room, and a few others, right? Rocker, Lunchtime, Dallas Empire, Xnid, you know, players you might expect. But the only one that stands out here really is Tyler aBeZy, and I know that this doesn't necessarily mean anything, and it probably doesn't mean anything at all, but it's just interesting. Like, you gotta say, it's pretty interesting that of the 26 accounts that Vegas Falcons follow, every single individual here is either a team, it's someone associated with their organization, or from a player perspective, because Clay, of course, is their coach as well, it's aBeZy. So what's going on there, right? Why do they follow aBeZy? Have they followed aBeZy for quite some time? Or what next in this scenario, right? So, I don't know, just something to think about there, because not gonna lie, the FaZe guys, it would be a surprise to see that trio stay the same. After this year, after coming top 6 at Champs again, you know, the Simp, aBeZy, Cellium, if they stay together, maybe, but what are you going to do? You're going to drop Drazah, bring in somebody else? I've done that a million times. So it feels maybe that now could be the time for that trio to break apart. How that looks, I don't know. But also, it's plausible. I don't know what the contractual situation is at FaZe, but it's possible these guys are free agents. And even if they're not, if Falcons want to drop some money and say, hey, come play for us, it's not like the FaZe guys have delivered championship success consistently, certainly at the World Championship over the last couple of seasons. That type of bag is going to be rather tempting. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know what the Falcons are going to do going forwards. Of course, there have been rumors about Sib as well. Not probably OpTic Sib or FaZe Sib, but you know, who knows, I suppose. Returned to that organization after a few years out. There was some controversy that happened when he was on FaZe back in the days. You guys probably remember from MW19. But could Sib go to Falcons? I mean, it would make some degree of sense. He's played with Pred before. Cloud9 would be willing to sell if the price is right. So that's a conversation to have. But also, the Falcons, they could probably try and get near enough anyone. If they want to get Cell, if they want to get Simp, if they want to get aBeZy, they can have that conversation. And maybe there is interest in having an aBeZy Pred partnership. Like, if Pred's going to be your face of the franchise, which makes a lot of sense, and Xnid, as solid, I think, as a player as he is, if you're going to try and attack other top talent, they're going to say, well, you know, probably don't want to play with Xnid. Bringing in aBeZy for Xnid, having like an aBeZy Pred SMG duo, then maybe you get Sib from there, maybe you get somebody else, I don't know. It's just something that I think Falcons not only would consider doing, but equally have the ability to do. So that's when the real questions raised on Rostermania today. Yeah, there's some short-term things. There's a couple of things happening going into the World Cup, but for a long-term move after the World Cup, and to some degree it depends what happens there, which teams win, which teams bomb out and all this, but I still think there's a very good chance that FaZe blow it up, and if they do, Falcons are going to swoop somebody up. Like, if that FaZe trio blows up, somebody is going to go to Falcons out of that trio, and right now it seems the more likely is Tyler aBeZy. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.